I'm sure that this video's thumbnail and the content I'm going to be discussing has drawn in a few more viewers than my videos typically would, so I'm going to thin the herd now by admitting that this is not a movie review, rant, analysis of its themes, or lack thereof. If you want my take on the movie Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, it's really simple. Don't waste your time and brain cells on it. There are a lot better bad horror movies out there to satiate that itch for you if you have one. Blood and Honey is of the infuriatingly bad variety. It was painful to watch, and I wish that I hadn't, but I did, so I need to make something worthwhile out of the experience. I'm going to be using Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey as a prompt and example to discuss an exceptionally important storytelling element: continuity and setting a scene. I felt that there's no better way to express a lack of continuity through example than with a clip of visual media. When reading, immersion relies more on the reader's imagination and retention than when watching a film. When a movie breaks your immersion, it's immediate and a lot more objective. You can just point at the screen and say, "That doesn't make sense." But, of course, the ability to tell a good story spans across all forms of media, and as I highlight what went wrong in the scene that I'm about to show you, I hope that you can take that general understanding with you in whatever it is that you're creating. Or you're just curious how Blood and Honey was so bad without having to watch it yourself, and want to watch something a little more articulate than a rant review about it. So, either way, this clip is edited from the original for the sake of time consumption and copyright, even though I am trying to use it educationally. For the sake of transparency, I want you to know the clip is inverted and sped up. I'm sure this video is going to get demonetized no matter what I do, so I'm not going to try too hard to fool the system, but that being the case, please consider supporting the channel in other ways. If you like the content, like, subscribe, and check out my Ko-fi page. That would be cool. If you don't want to watch the example clip, please skip to the timestamp afterwards where I talk about why these seemingly small bits of information that the movie failed to include are so important to the art of telling a good story. To set the context, this is the movie's protagonist, Maria, and her introduction. After the opening scene setting up Christopher Robin's history with the 100-acre wood animals, we cut to Maria in a therapy session where her and her therapist agree that she should have a mini vacay with the girls. And action.
Go somewhere quiet. Disconnect from the busy world. Somewhere which might feel safer, and to take your mind off everything that's happened. I think it could really help you.
Yeah, maybe.
Two hours? Seriously, Tina?
I know, I'm sorry, I'll be there. Right, can you just settle in, get some wine, just get the pre-drinks going, I'll be there soon.
Honestly, you would lose your head if it wasn't attached to you.
Listen. Right, do you hear that? Okay, that is the door. Okay, I'm coming, I won't be long.
Yeah, alright, you flake. Right, we'll see you soon. Hello? 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 Is it okay? I don't think there's anyone here.
Hold on, I'm coming.
Hi.
Well, how you doing, girl? Sorry I couldn't hear you back there.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to ask, the pumps outside, are they working?
Them old things, you've seen them. They've been working for years. If you're looking for gas, you could drive up the road about 2 miles. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Maria, let's go.
Well, I see you have some friends out there.
Yeah, sorry, they're just a bit impatient. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, darling, don't be silly. My fault.
There you go.
Oh, you're sweet.
Sorry
Cheers,
again.
doll.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Oh, my feet hurt.
So, hopefully, you watched that and were a bit jarred by the progression through the scenes. If not, I will explain what caught me up during my first viewing session, and discuss what, if anything, could have been done to make a more cohesive transition through the movie's visual storytelling. So, continuity trip up number 1. When I watched this scene with my partner, at precisely this moment here, we looked at each other and asked ourselves, who is she talking to? Maria's sudden exclamation to a presumably empty gas station was confusing because up until this point we had not seen anyone traveling with her. This also made us wonder whether the script had just been poorly translated or delivered, and this was supposed to be an extension of the classic moment that all movie characters do when wandering into an abandoned building, which is yell, "Hello, is anybody there?" But she had also already done that upon entering, so why the sudden outburst? Is she sharing this revelation with the audience? Because that'd be pretty strange. After Maria has a short conversation with the mechanic, we're given information that we were lacking at the previous moment of confusion. In the background, there's a car horn and presumably one of Maria's friends calling her to hurry up. Why was this particular instance of Blood and Honey so jarring? I've watched a lot of low-budget, poorly done movies in my day, but rarely have I been so off-put that I had to pause the movie and rewind to make sure that I hadn't missed anything, which is what I did when this scene was over. And the answer was no, I hadn't missed anything. The film just hadn't given me the information I needed to form my expectations of what was happening, and therefore was able to understand what was happening. I'm going to spell out the play-by-play so we can see what information we were given and what information we needed for this to be a cohesive sequence of events. What actually happened was, Maria decides in therapy to go on a vacation with her friends. We cut to footage of her car and hear her on a call with one of said friends who are driving separately to where they're staying. We cut to Maria pulling up to a gas station, getting out alone, and investigating the rundown building. Maria yells that there isn't anyone in the building. She is met by the mechanic, there's a honk, and her friend tells her to hurry up. The reason Maria yelling that there's no one in the building is so confusing is because up until that point, there was no indication that anyone else was in the car with her. To a viewer, it'd seem more likely that her friend on the phone, who said she was going to be late, had somehow shown up to the gas station too, even though that doesn't explain Maria's pre-knowledge and exclamation to the unknown presence. As far-fetched as that assumption is, viewers will make odd leaps in logic based on the information they have been given. All we've seen is Maria alone and hearing a phone call. I mean, does it look like there are other people in this car with her here? Audiences will try to make sense of something based on what they've been given. As a storyteller, you can never assume that they'll assume something you haven't explicitly shared with them, in one way or another. There are a variety of things the film could have introduced to ease viewers into thinking Maria wasn't traveling alone, even without directly showing another actor. There could have been other voices in the car when Maria made the phone call to her friend traveling separately. The phone call itself was presented as a private call Maria made in an empty car. Secondly, Maria could have acknowledged that there were passengers in her car when she got out to investigate the gas station. This could have taken the form of her saying, "I'll be right back," or the like. So when she addresses a never seen and never assumed to have existed character just off screen, viewers aren't completely confused because they were, in multiple ways, given the impression that Maria was traveling alone. Continuity trip-up number 2 happens directly after continuity trip-up number 1 resolves. I was sitting there going, okay, so, contrary to what was presented, Maria isn't traveling alone. As a viewer, we're not happy about how that information was delivered, but we're willing to accept this as the movie's new reality. Then we awkwardly cut to not 1, not 2, but 4 other women with Maria arriving at their reservation with a fair amount of baggage. Let's take a second to look at Maria's car. I don't know about you, but I doubt that many people and all of their luggage fit in there. Not just comfortably, but literally at all. Going over the flow of these scenes into one another seems like a nitpick, mostly because of the format I'm presenting it to you. Oh wow, Slady's criticizing the capacity of the car they were driving. But yeah, I am. Because again, the film contradicts the information it gave its viewers, which makes for a really jarring, and at this point, getting annoying, viewing experience. More so, because the information we were given originally caused us to question and reevaluate what we were seeing once already, which should have been a simple transition of Maria making the decision to go on a trip to arriving at her destination became an evolving and cohesive journey. We started with the assumption she was driving alone, to accepting that she had a passenger, to being revealed there were way more people in the vehicle than would actually fit. A forgiving viewer might think to themselves, well, these 4 women materializing out of nowhere could be explained by several of the friends showing up in a separate vehicle. Is this the person that Maria was on the phone with? And the answer again is no. Even our most reasonable assumptions to excuse the gap in the film's information is not even correct, as we cut to said phone call person being lost somewhere else. We'll never know if some of them came in another vehicle because no vehicles are shown pulling up. We're left to assume not only that they were in Maria's car, but that they've somehow been in there the whole damn time. In situations like this, at least for me as a viewer, I start to feel like I'm losing my mind. I can't keep jumping through hoops of logic to make what I'm seeing presented to me make sense, because that makes for a terrible and strenuous viewing experience. It's not the viewer's job to deduce what's going on in a sequence of events as simple as an expositional road trip, because its purpose was to be expositional and set up the scenario for the rest of the film going forward, but it left out expressing to its viewers hugely important physical elements for that setup to even work. I picked this clip from Blood and Honey to talk about, apart from other glaringly inconsistent delivery of information throughout the movie. Not just because when I watched it I had to pause and rewind because of how poorly it was done, but because the sequence of events is transcendent. At its base, it's about moving a character through their story, and it exemplifies just how poorly that can go because of a lack of information delivered to the consumer, be that a viewer or a reader. The diagnosis that I'm giving this whole misstep in storytelling is that this travel sequence suffered from an inability to properly set the scene. And as I've been writing and editing recently, I noticed in myself this flaw that we all tend to fall into now and again as storytellers, which is spending so much time on your project that you've lost the ability to experience it through introduction. For example, you've envisioned a certain scene for a long time now. You know what time of day it is, the weather, who's there, and what they're going to say and do. It's all there, and you can see it. But the catch is that once you've so thoroughly internalized a scene, you start to miss things when conveying it to others. Not details necessarily, like the color of the drapes on the window, but other things that you might feel are obvious or unnecessary to convey. Hence what happened in Blood and Honey. Of course Maria was in a car with other people. We don't need to show it, but you do, because a lot of things that seem non-consequential become immersion breakers. Just like you can't write a scene with two characters talking, then after a couple pages, another voice suddenly comes in from a third character standing in the corner who was apparently there the whole time. Of course, with movies and books, you have the option to make cuts, end the scene, and jump to another location or time. Inconsistencies are most apparent when physically following a character step by step, like in Maria's journey from the therapist inciting the trip to the location of the trip. But even with scene or chapter cuts, you still have to be mindful of addressing your audience's need for logical consistency. Like in our continuity example number 2, where it wasn't necessarily a problem that the character arrived where they did, it was that they arrived in a way that made the viewer question, how? How did they get there? The moral of the story is, don't lose track of what information you've shared with your audience. Making people backtrack won't just break immersion, but it'll leave people understandably confused. Regardless of how complex your story is, we can never expect whoever is consuming our content to assume things on behalf of gaps left in the story's continuity. So this was a little bit of an odd way to approach this topic, but I hope you found it kind of enjoyable, at least amusing. As always, thank you so much for watching.